Good day, guys. This is Bullies TV, and today we're talking about what the A.B.K.C needs you to know about their classic and standard class. Okay. I made this post the other day about the standards and classics. But I put them all together because I feel like a standard and a classic is the same dog. I don't feel like a dog should be judged differently just because it has a smaller frame, especially when they're the same height. So that's why I made this post the way it is. But I was actually kind of shocked that, persons from the A.B.K.C, kind of told us that Samson and Blue are the new standards, and Dooley is a very good example of a classic. Okay, now we all know Dooley is a humongous dog. Okay, you're talking about a dog that's a little over 20 inches, near to 100 pounds, and if Dooley is a classic, that would mean that dogs like, shots fired, what other big standard is there out there? Probably maybe Vindicator. If these dogs are classic, what happens to the older dogs? Like some of the dogs I made on the post, like a Watson or a Omega, possibly even dogs like Sweet and Low. Like, what are those dogs? Where do those dogs go? If they're not classic, then that means they're considered to be nothing, which means that you would be paying to compete, but your dogs will have no chance of doing well. So we know that, I'm assuming that the A.B.K.C doesn't want to come out and say this because they know that, they probably would lose your money. Because even the best classic against the best standard would never win in a show like nationals, because the standard is supposed to be the best version of the American Bully. So even a Dooley facing Blue in a ring of nationals should not win, according to what they believe and what they're telling us with these standards. But I have no idea what is supposed to happen to the history of dogs, like of national winners like Master Shifu, The Bus, The Bear, Sweet and Low, Axel, Rockstar, Denzel. What are those dogs? And specifically the ones of standard height. I've heard someone say a top 10 dog needs to go to the UKC to compete. And to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Because if the standard is Samson, and Samson is a freak, because we know his brother Madden is, a good ways smaller than him. How do you make a freak the standard? Because there are no sons of Samson right now, to my knowledge, that are even his size. So how do you expect people to replicate Samson if he's a freak? It doesn't make sense to me. A wise man said to me, when he's picking out of his litter, he doesn't choose the freak. He chooses the dog that is more consistent with the rest of the litter, because he knows that the probability of those dogs producing will be like the rest of the litter. The freak is not going to outproduce himself. When we look at dogs like Shamrock, to my knowledge, there is no Shamrock son as big as Shamrock. The same thing with Rocco. I don't know a Rocco son as big as Rocco. Even when I think of a dog like the Hulk, from Dark Dynasty Kennels. That breeding was repeated to try to get Hulk again, and to my knowledge, they didn't get it. Okay, I don't understand why the ABKC is going in this direction, or what they think the dogs are going to be. Especially with all the health issues that are happening now, and the increasing number of vets that are declining services to owners of American Bullies. This thing is real. So now we know that the size of the classics are now like the former standards, and the standards are now dogs that are more extreme. Okay, when we look at even the Nationals winner last year for the best classic is Joshua, who's a pretty good dog, in my opinion. But I think he's a standard. He's not the true classic. But a very nice. For some strange reason, if you feel like all of this is me hating and lying and trying to come up with just a reason to bash the A.B.K.C, watch at Nationals this year the dogs that are going to win best classic, best female, and best standard, and that will tell you all you need to know. Last year was Napalm. I can't imagine what the best female is going to look like. And I think, with the post I made the other day, or when Dave said that Blue and Samson with a standard, I think we all kind of know where this is going. And the community is actually going to have to divide in some kind of way. And the people that like athletic dogs that still have some, what we call mass, not, a whole bunch of extra weight, are going to have to find a new home for these dogs. So the WBA is very welcoming, and the UKC is not as welcoming to some dogs that are overdone, that they consider to be overdone, that I don't, but they are much more strict on what they allow to compete. So, back to the ABKC, with dogs like Sweet and Low and Rockstar, who are nationals as standards, like, what do you do? Is there a point where they will put asterisks by their wins in the history, in their records, or do you just tell people that they don't exist because they're not the size of Dooley, so they wouldn't even be considered classics at this point? So what do you do with them? That's what I don't understand what the A.B.K.C is trying to do. And if Dooley is a dang classic, I mean, I don't even want a classic because those dogs are just too big for me, for my personal preference. But I mean, you guys can tell me what you think. Is Dooley a classic? Should Dooley be considered a classic and dogs within his size range? Or are Samson and Blue and are those dogs that the breed should be modeled after? You tell me what you think. Leave your comment. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And we look forward to continuing this conversation. But I will see you guys next week.